It started with the envelope. I'd just come back from patrol when I saw it sitting on the kitchen counter. Creamy, heavy, with that overpriced calligraphy my mother always insisted on. I didn't have to flip it over to know what it was. "Is that it?" Ava asked, already reaching for it. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, it's the wedding invitation." She lit up. "Finally, I thought Uncle Ethan forgot about us." I didn't say anything, just watched her fingers as she slid the card out. Her 17-year-old face bright with the kind of hope I'd seen chipped away too many times before. Then she stopped smiling. A beat of silence passed. She turned the card toward me, tapping at the bottom line. "Guests under 18 are not permitted. Seriously." I took it from her hand, reading it twice just to be sure. A no minors policy. It was probably printed on every invite, but somehow I knew it was about her. "But I'm not a kid," she said, trying to sound casual. "I mean, I'll be 18 in 6 months, and it's family." I forced a small smile. "I know." Ava sat down slowly at the table, shoulders tight. "I picked out a dress already. I mean, I know I didn't have to, but I just thought, that it would be fun." She didn't look up, and I didn't know what to say. Because what could I say? That this wasn't the first time? That I'd seen it coming the second I saw her name missing from the envelope? Ava had been in my life since she was 4. I married Marcus when she was still learning to read, and she'd called me Dee before she could spell my name. I never tried to replace her mom. God, no. But I'd raised her every day since. School drop-offs, birthday parties, messy science projects, all of it. But to my family, she was never really mine. They never said it out loud, but they didn't have to. She was always Dana's stepdaughter, always seated just a little outside the circle. At holidays, she got the leftover place cards. At birthdays, her name was scribbled on tags like an afterthought. And now, a wedding she'd been gushing about for weeks, suddenly closed off behind a flimsy excuse. "I get it," Ava said finally, standing. Her voice was quiet, careful. "I'm not blood, Ava." I stood too, reaching for her hand, but she was already heading to her room. "I'm fine," she said without turning around. "It's not a big deal." But it was. God, it was. I stared at the invitation for a long time after she shut her door. That elegant cardstock, with its stupid embossed vines and pretense of inclusivity. It mocked me, pretended this was about some grown-up formal rule. But I knew better. Ethan could have made an exception. If this were Leah's kid, her biological daughter, no one would have blinked. I walked over to the kitchen drawer, pulled out a pen, and wrote "decline" on the RSVP card. No explanation, no argument. Just a quiet line through their idea of a perfect guest list. They made their choice. And now, so had I. Back then, I kept trying to believe it wasn't personal. The first time was Easter. Ava was maybe 5. Still new to my family, still calling Marcus Daddy like it was a magic word. She had drawn this bright, chaotic picture of a bunny wearing sunglasses and carrying a basket full of jelly beans. She was so proud. She ran up to my mom, handed it over with both hands like she was giving away treasure. Mom smiled politely, said, "Oh, how nice," and slid it into her purse without another word. 10 minutes later, my niece Claire gave her a store-bought card with glitter glue and a misspelled message. And Mom gushed like it was the Mona Lisa. Ava noticed. She didn't say anything, but her smile didn't come back the rest of the afternoon. I remember crouching next to her while she sat on the swing in my parents' backyard, trying to cheer her up. "Grandma liked your picture," I told her. "She just gets distracted sometimes." Even then, I didn't believe myself. Over the years, it kept happening. Subtle things. Easy to dismiss, easy to explain away if you weren't paying attention. But I was. I always was. Like how my brother Ethan called Ava "your girl" instead of using her name. Is your girl coming to the barbecue? Or should I save a cupcake for Dana's girl? Never Ava, never your daughter. Or how every Christmas Ava's gifts were generic. A scented lotion, a fuzzy blanket, something clearly picked up last minute. Meanwhile, Leah's kids got carefully wrapped boxes with handwritten tags and bows that matched the wrapping paper. I tried. God, I tried. I brought Ava to every family gathering. Made sure she had a dress for Easter, something cute for Thanksgiving. Helped her rehearse little songs for those cringy family talent shows my mom loved to force on us. She always wanted to be included. always asked, "Are we going to Grandma's?" with that mix of excitement and nerves. And she always brought something. Cookies she baked herself, little craft projects she made at school. Once she painted a tiny flower pot with our family's last name and filled it with fake sunflowers. My dad glanced at it and said, "Huh, that's cute," like it was a paperweight he didn't ask for. She left it on their coffee table. It was gone the next time we visited. Marcus used to say I was reading too much into it. "They're just awkward with kids," he'd say. "They don't mean anything by it." Maybe, but awkward didn't explain how they treated Claire and Tyler. Awkward didn't explain the way they lit up when Ethan walked in with his kids. How they had inside jokes with Leah's daughter. How they always made space for everyone else. It was like Ava had a visitor's badge instead of a seat at the table. Still, I kept pushing. I thought if I just kept showing up, kept including her, eventually they'd come around. That they'd see her for who she was, sweet, funny, deeply kind. That they'd see what I saw, but they never did. And I think Ava started to understand that long before I did. It's not like she ever cried about it. She didn't ask why she got fewer gifts, or why no one posted about her birthday on Facebook like they did for her cousins. But she knew. You can always tell when you're being tolerated instead of embraced. So when she saw that wedding invitation and realized she wasn't welcome, it didn't shock her. It hurt her. God, yes. But it didn't surprise her. And that's what broke me. That my daughter didn't even flinch at being excluded, because she'd learned to expect it. All those years I spent trying to bridge the gap, soften the edges, I see now how that patience cost her. I was waiting for my family to love her like I did, but while I was waiting, she was shrinking, and I don't think I can forgive myself for that. It started with a buzz in the family group chat. Ethan, "Hey everyone, wedding's coming up fast. Reminder to RSVP if you haven't yet." I had already sent mine back. A small check mark next to "will not attend." No note, no explanation. I figured that would be the end of it. A quiet absence. But my silence never stayed quiet for long. 2 minutes after Ethan's message, Leah chimed in. Leah, "Dana, are you seriously not coming?" Another ping. Ethan, "I hope this isn't about the guest policy. We said no minors across the board. It's not personal." I didn't reply. The messages kept coming anyway. Leah, "Wow. So you're punishing everyone just because of a policy. Grow up." Ethan, "This is a formal event, Dana. You know that. We're trying to keep things elegant. It's not like Ava's the only one not invited." Leah again, "Except you're the only one making it a thing." Then the messages stopped. I thought maybe they'd moved on. Busy lives, busy plans. But a few hours later, my phone rang. "Mom," I answered, against my better judgment. "Hi, sweetie," she said in that soft voice she uses when she wants something. "I just heard from your brother. Are you really not coming?" "I'm not," I said simply. She sighed like I had just canceled Christmas. "Oh, Dana, don't do this. It's just one night. And Ava, she's still family, even if she's not invited. You know how these events work. It's adults only." "Formal, she's 17, I said, my voice flat. "She's been looking forward to this for months." "Well, maybe next time," Mom offered. Like it was a store sale she missed. There it was, that soft cruelty she never acknowledged. The way she dismissed Ava's hurt without even blinking. "She's not surprised, you know," I said. "She's disappointed, but not surprised. Isn't that sad?" My mom was quiet for a second. Then, in a tired tone, "Dana, you always take things so personally." I ended the call without another word. Later that night, I found Ava in her room. She was curled up on the bed with her sketch pad, flipping through pages without really drawing. I sat beside her. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but didn't look up. I deleted the dress photos. My heart cracked. She'd been so excited, twirling in the mirror the day it arrived, showing me how the skirt swayed when she moved. "It's not too grown up, right?" she'd asked. "It's still fun?" She hadn't even tried it on again after reading the invite. I reached for her hand, but she pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. "I just thought maybe this time would be different," she said softly. "Guess not." She didn't cry, didn't yell, just went quiet. And that silence hurt more than anything. Because she wasn't shocked. She was resigned. She had hoped for something better. And when it didn't come, She simply folded herself smaller like she always did. And I sat there, realizing this wasn't just about a wedding. It was about every time I let them make her feel less than. And that realization, that's what broke me. Christmas had always been mine, not in some controlling, over-the-top way. But for the last 9 years, ever since Marcus and I bought the lodge out by the forest, it became the place. The place for lights and long dinners and gift wrap everywhere. The place where the kids ran barefoot through the hallways with sticky fingers, and someone was always yelling for more gravy. Every year, I planned it all. Made the guest list, sent out the invites, baked cinnamon rolls from scratch. Ava helped decorate, and Marcus hung lights on every tree in sight, even the sad ones out by the driveway that leaned a little from wind damage. But this year, I didn't do any of it. The lodge stayed quiet. No boxes dragged down from the attic, no pine needles tracked in from the front porch. The oven stayed cold, the Christmas playlist on my phone, the one Ava and I built together over the years, didn't get a single spin. I didn't even tell anyone we weren't hosting. I just didn't send the email. Marcus noticed first, a week before Christmas. He came in from chopping wood and glanced around like something felt off. "No cinnamon candles?" he said, eyebrows raised. I shook my head. "Not this year." He didn't ask questions, just nodded, brushed off the snow from his coat, and said, "Okay." Ava noticed next. She walked into the kitchen a few days later, saw the bare counters, and didn't say anything at first, just stood there looking. Then she asked, real quiet, "Are we not doing Christmas?" "We are," I said, "just not with them." She stared at me for a long second, then nodded slowly. Okay. That was it. No questions, no sadness, just understanding, like she'd been waiting to hear those words for years. The messages started trickling in 3 days before Christmas. Leah, "Hey, what time should we come up? I forgot if we're doing brunch or dinner this year." Then Ethan, "Need me to bring extra chairs again?" Claire's boyfriend is tagging along. I didn't reply to any of them. Then Mom called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, voice tight but trying to sound cheerful. "Hi, honey, just checking in. I know things have been tense, but Christmas is still on, right? You always host. We've already bought gifts." Still, I said nothing. Then Leah sent another message. "Leah, Ava better not be the reason you're blowing everything up." "I'm serious, Dana. This is getting childish." I stared at my phone for a long time after that one. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then I turned it off and slid it into the drawer. I looked over at Ava, who was sketching something on the couch. A lazy snowman with sunglasses, holding a mug that said, "I'm not cold, you are." She glanced up, then smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a soft, relaxed one, like she didn't have to brace herself anymore. And that was it. No tree, no table set for 12. No casserole dishes or complaints about gluten. Just quiet. Just us. I didn't cancel Christmas. I reclaimed it. It snowed on Christmas Eve. Not a lot, just enough to powder the trees and muffle the world outside our cabin. Ava stood by the window that morning, watching the flakes drift down. "It's kind of perfect," she said, more to herself than to me. And it was. No noise, no chaos. No last-minute texts about who forgot to bring the cider. No one asking if we had enough chairs, enough wine, enough patience. Just stillness. We made grilled cheese sandwiches for dinner, buttery, crisp, oozing sharp cheddar. Marcus flipped his on the skillet like it was fine dining. Ava sliced hers diagonally and said, "This is peak cuisine," before devouring the first half in 2 bites. We sat around the coffee table in socks, trading bites and playing board games by the fire. Marcus kept misreading the rules, and Ava called him out every time. I laughed so hard I snorted, and no one rolled their eyes or said I was being loud. Later, Ava pulled out her baking kit and started on gingerbread. "Wait, are these dinosaurs?" Marcus asked, squinting at her cookie cutters. "Dinomas," she said with a straight face. "They're festive if you give them little scarves." She piped shaky scarves and lopsided hats onto everyone. We took turns naming them. Clarence, the emotionally unavailable stegosaurus. Rita, the anxious triceratops with seasonal depression. Ava laughed so hard at one point she had to sit on the floor. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and molasses and burnt edges. There were flour handprints on the fridge. Marcus tracked frosting onto the couch. And it was perfect. Not performative. Not polished. Just ours. At one point, I sat back in the armchair with a mug of hot chocolate and let the moment sink in. Ava was on the floor, frosting a gingerbread T-Rex with a tongue sticking out. Marcus was dozing lightly with a cookie still in his hand, and I felt this strange, unexpected feeling bloom in my chest. Peace. Not the peace that comes from silence, the kind I used to chase during family dinners when my jaw ached from forced smiles. This was different. This was peace from not having to brace myself, not having to explain Ava's place in the room, not having to worry about someone calling her Dana's girl in front of her again like she was luggage. It wasn't emptiness. It was the absence of judgment. For so many years, I thought tradition mattered more than comfort. That if I just kept showing up, kept smiling, kept hosting, eventually things would shift. But this Christmas, I didn't perform. I didn't decorate a tree for people who made Ava feel invisible, and yet the room felt full. I sipped my cocoa and watched Ava gently press a gumdrop onto a gingerbread dinosaur's back, like she was giving it armor. And I thought, this is what it's supposed to feel like. No noise, no trying, no proving, just love. It was 3 days after Christmas when it happened. I was folding laundry in the living room, just towels and flannel pajamas, nothing exciting, while Ava sat nearby, curled into the corner of the couch with her sketchbook in her lap. The fire had burned down to warm embers, and a lazy kind of quiet filled the room. Not awkward, just calm. She hadn't said much all morning, and I hadn't pushed. We were getting good at giving each other space when we needed it. Then, out of nowhere, her pencil paused mid-sketch. "If I were your biological kid," she said, eyes still on the paper, "do you think they'd treat me different?" I didn't move. My hand hovered over a dish towel. I looked at her face, calm, unreadable, but her grip on the pencil had tightened just slightly. I sat down on the edge of the couch, folding the towel slowly, buying time. "I don't know," I said quietly. "Maybe. Probably." Ava nodded, like she'd already guessed the answer. "Yeah." "It's not because of you," I added quickly. "It never was. They were wrong, not you." She didn't look up. I just kept thinking. Maybe if I was better at talking to them, or if I dressed different, or smiled more. I used to think there was something I wasn't doing right. That hit me harder than I expected. Because I remember thinking that same thing once. As a kid, trying to win my mom's approval, trying to shrink myself into whatever shape would finally make her proud. I reached over and touched Ava's hand lightly. "There's nothing wrong with you. You were always enough. They just couldn't see it." She nodded again, slower this time. Then she closed the sketchbook and leaned her head against the back of the couch. "I don't think I want them to like me anymore." I blinked. It wasn't said in anger. There was no edge in her voice, just a quiet, tired clarity, the kind that only comes after years of trying. I felt something shift in that moment, not in her, but in me. Pride. Not the shiny Instagram kind, not the look at her achievements kind. This was deeper, fiercer. My daughter had just said no to conditional love, and I couldn't have been more proud. "I support that," I said gently. "You get to decide who you care about, who gets to matter to you." She didn't say anything, just reached for another pencil and started drawing again. And I sat there, watching her lines come to life, knowing full well that this, her strength, her voice, her choice, was the kind of legacy I wanted to leave behind. The voicemail came on a Tuesday. I saw the missed call first. "Dad, home," and didn't think much of it. I hadn't heard from him since before Christmas, and part of me hoped maybe he was calling to apologize. A foolish thought, in hindsight. I listened to it after dinner, standing at the sink while Ava and Marcus loaded the dishwasher behind me. "Hey, Dana," Dad's voice crackled, rough with age and something like forced warmth. "Just wanted to say, look, we all miss you. Your mom's not sleeping. She's been crying every night. We just want to reconnect, all right? Let's not drag this out. You're our daughter. Don't let this wedge stay between us. Call me back." I stood there for a long moment, the dish towel limp in my hands. Marcus glanced over. "You okay?" I nodded, but I didn't feel okay. I felt cornered. Again. A few hours later, the group chat pinged. That same thread I hadn't touched since the wedding invitation mess. Leah, this is getting out of hand, Dana. You're obsessed with that girl. Ava this, Ava that. You've made your point. Now stop punishing everyone. My fingers hovered over my phone. Obsessed. That word rattled in my chest. Not protective, not loving. Obsessed. Like defending Ava's dignity had turned me into some unreasonable fanatic. I locked my phone without responding. Then unlocked it again. Then locked it. They always did this. Reframe the story until I was the problem. It wasn't about Ava being excluded. It was about me making it personal. Me being dramatic. Me starting drama. For years, I'd played along. I'd softened my tone, smoothed things over. Told Ava to be patient, to give people time. I thought keeping peace was the same as keeping love, but all I had really done was tell her to make herself smaller so others could stay comfortable. I walked upstairs, phone still in my hand, and sat at the edge of Ava's bed. She was reading, her long legs tucked under a blanket. Leah called me obsessed, I said. She didn't look up. Because of me? I nodded. She shrugged. They never liked me much anyway. The way she said it, flat, detached, made my throat ache. She wasn't bitter, just used to it, like a bruise she stopped expecting to heal. You know what? I said slowly, more to myself than to her. I used to think I had to choose between being polite and being protective. Ava glanced up at me, eyes curious. But I don't, I continued. I don't have to soften the truth to make other people feel better. I don't owe anyone that. I stood up, walked back downstairs, and opened my phone again. I played the voicemail one more time, then deleted it. I opened Leah's contact. Blocked. For a brief second, I expected guilt to creep in, that familiar ache. But it didn't come, because I wasn't cutting people off. I was choosing Ava. I was choosing to say, her safety matters more than your comfort. And finally, I believed that wasn't extreme. It was just love. Firm, clear, unshakable. New Year's Eve used to be loud. Clinking glasses, bad karaoke, paper hats, and someone always breaking a glass around 11:30. My family loved it. Ethan would bring overpriced champagne. Leah would micromanage the cheese board. My mom would force everyone into a circle before midnight to say what they were leaving behind. Every year, I said the same thing, doubt. Every year, I still carried it home. But this year, there was no party, no guest list, no group text, no countdown. It was just us. Marcus started a fire in the hearth, while Ava and I set up board games on the floor. She picked the old classics, Clue, Scrabble, that dusty deck of Uno cards with half the box missing. We ate grilled cheese again by unanimous vote. Around 9, we put on old pajamas. Around 10, we started a movie we'd all seen before. Around 11:30, Ava fell asleep against a pillow with her sketchbook still open in her lap. And around midnight, I didn't even notice the clock change. No shouting, no toasts, just peace. I sat on the couch, watching the fire crackle low, my arms around Marcus, and thought, this is it. This is what I've been trying to get to. This calm, this quiet, this life where I'm not shrinking myself to keep the room stable. No guilt, no pretending, just truth. For the first time in years, I wasn't juggling the weight of keeping everyone happy. I wasn't smoothing over group chats or offering diplomatic explanations for other people's cruelty. I wasn't walking on eggshells with a forced smile, hoping someone would eventually come around and say, we were wrong about her. I wasn't waiting to be accepted. I had already chosen who mattered. Ava stirred a little in her sleep and murmured something. Half dream, half nonsense. Marcus pulled the blanket over her gently, his hand brushing hers like muscle memory. I looked at them, the people who made this life real, who never asked me to shrink or explain or apologize for protecting a girl who deserved every damn ounce of love I had to give. And in that moment, I felt something loosen in me, something that had been clenched for years, decades, maybe, not anger, just release. Let them say I overreacted. Let them call me cold. Let them grumble in their big, curated parties with fancy wine and invisible lines drawn around who counts and who doesn't. They'll go on with their stories, and I'll go on with mine. This version, the one where I stopped twisting myself into knots for a seat at their table, This one feels like freedom. The movie ended. The fire dimmed. The cabin was quiet. And as the new year began, I didn't whisper a resolution. I just breathed, deep, clean, steady. Finally, I could exhale.